Of Wotan, I have, but I don't think a lot of other people have, seeing the fact that they've only ever appeared in about 56 comic book issues altogether. Karl Wotan first appeared in Morphon Comics issue 55 in 1940, making him one of the oldest DC villains, who are still used today. Well, marginally used today in his case. Among the likes of Ultra Humanite, Joker, Catwoman, Hugo Strange, Tigress, The Thinker, Shade, and a handful of others. Wotan is a dark magician. Yes, magician. Not sorcerer, not even wizard, but magician is the word that they use. He was first introduced as a one-shot villain for Dr. Fate. He continued to show up being dubbed a token villain who has no real motivation or any real origin or even what his abilities are. All we know is that he's a dark magician, not a sorcerer, magician, and just liked being evil. He'd pop up here and there, and he'd even pop up in the Doctor Fate solo series that was from the, I think, 70s or 80s. They wouldn't get more depth into their character into the New 52, giving Wotan an actual origin story, which they kind of hinted at pre-New 52, but they never got into it, and it kind of contradicts a lot of the stuff that happens in the New 52 with Wotan, so that stuff that was always hinted at does not exist in the New 52 anymore. I'm just going to say that off the bat because I can already tell someone might be very confused. Like, wait, no, I thought Wotan was something, but no, that's not the case anymore. New 52 erased it all. Got all that? Good. He is also now based on Earth 2, like most Golden Age characters, with an origin that, in my opinion, is a huge update and actually works. Although, when you think of it, it's very different from its previous incarnation of the character. As the previous character didn't seem to really have much of a motivation, this time around, Wotan actually seemingly has somewhat motivation. Although, yeah, it's a little confusing. I still like it, but I think it could use some touching up. But either way, I still thought it was both deep and great when it came to commentary on both sexism and gender. Wotan was once a woman. She was a witch and member of a tribe in the northern western wasteland. Wotan would be beaten and raped by a male member of the tribe and almost killed her. Wotan couldn't understand the reason why he did this. She was determined on to find out the reason, but the result ended up come to the conclusion that humans were just disgusting. Wotan would escape her abusers, she'd end up stumbling across a shaman, who taught her how to protect herself with her powers and use them against people who, harmed her. And that how people in the real world really are just horrible. That humanity can be good, but there's also a lot of people that are just, in other words, god-awful, and that would treat a woman that way just because they were a woman. Yeah, that's a very, very deep and very dark and serious type origin story. In my opinion, it's handled tastefully. It could have been handled, I think, a little bit better than it was, but it was definitely handled a lot better than certain storylines touching on that do it. I think it's handled much more tastefully than a lot of other storylines when it comes to that kind of plot point. And in my opinion, I think Wotan in this comes off more, how do I say, empathetic. Like, you don't care, like, in the pre-New 52, you don't really care about Wotan. You're just like, oh, he's a villain. But this time around, Wotan is feels like an actual person. And in my opinion, that is a big update and an improvement, as they're no longer just a token villain, they're actually a character. Wotan, as they grew up, would become to be seen as a goddess by everyone who lived in the region due to their raw power. But wanting to never lose this, therefore they decided to extend their life by possessing multiple different bodies, which resulted in Wotan becoming gender fluid. Sometimes Wotan was represented during the times that were showing their past. Sometimes Wotan was a woman. Sometimes Wotan was a man. And it came to interesting type of storyline where they identified with whatever gender they were possessing. Although, when you look into it, it's also a little bit dark, because I'm fairly certain they are possessing that person until they die, which I think makes the whole storyline a bit dark. But I think what they set up with the whole they not thinking that humans had, like, the right to live makes a lot of sense, that they would think that, oh, they're here so I can possess them. They're awful anyway, might as well do it. might as well make their life worth having existed. And to me, although it's not fully said, and although I think it's only implied, I do think they should have gone more with that angle, the fact that Wotan sees humans more as toys rather than, actual people. Like, toys get broken, so he's fine with breaking them. Wotan would face against the JSA where they kidnap Jay Garrick, Dr. Fate, and Jay's mom, but would be defeated by the JSA by the end of the day pretty easily, which is unfortunate because I thought they had a strong start. A little while later, Constantine ended up trapped on Earth 2, and you know how that's gonna go when he meets another magician. Yes, I'm never gonna get over the fact they call Wotan a magician. Not a sorcerer, not a wizard, not a mystic with dark arts, not a Wiccan, but a magician. Paired to me is a little odd because even though that they both come from like similar background of magic, that being Constantine and Wotan, neither of them I think have ever really met. Wotan is usually the more of the whole mystical fighting Dr. Fate, big Justice League villain type character, or Justice League of Society character. Well, Constantine is more of a Justice League Dark character who's in like a separate corner of this whole like DC universe. To the point where like they had literally, in order to bring the two together, Constantine had to go to Earth 2 where he was trapped. But that's just my opinion on it. It was a little weird that they were mixing these two characters together, but I think at the end of the day it kind of worked. But still, it was a little odd how they're interacting. Wotan would end up going after them, wanting to know how to travel between Earths, due to the fact that was kind of a big plot point in the New 52 for a while, with the whole Steppenwolf crap going on. That stuff, in my opinion, was not that good. Anyone who loves it, I'm sorry. I personally just wasn't the biggest fan of the whole Steppenwolf going to Earth 2 stuff. But Wotan would be tricked by Constantine when he walks into a gateway to Earth 1, which closes with Wotan in it, resulting in Wotan being ripped in two. I don't understand how he got ripped in two. I feel like he would just die as the portal collapsed, but he got ripped in two. And he never returned in Rebirth, so R.I.P. Wotan, R.I.P. Wotan as a man would appear in adaptations. He would appear in Batman Brave and the Bold, and where he would just be a random villain Dr. Fate was fighting in the opening of the 10th episode of the first season. Wotan also, as a man, appeared in Young Justice as a member of the Injustice League, with Atomic Skull, Joker, Poison Ivy, Black Adam, Count Vertigo, and Ultra Humanite. The latter, which was also a character from the Golden Age who managed to stick around. Interesting. Same thing with Joker, actually, and Black Adam. Was Atomic Skull in the Golden Age? I think he was, but I'm not too sure. I know Poison Ivy wasn't around until the Silver Age. The New 52 Wotan, in my opinion, is certainly the best. I think you could really do something with their gender fluidity and the whole fact that they think humans are toys, and how that he doesn't want to break the toys, but if a toy gets broken, it's not the end of the world. The New 52 is known for making a lot of mistakes and making changes to characters that just don't work. But there's a couple of changes that do work, and new characters that do work. For example, I think Ace West works. I think the Core of Owls works. Just the Cruz works. Duke Thomas, Simon Baz. Well, Simon Baz, I think, has his moments, but he also has moments where he's not too good, in my opinion. But for also changes to character lore, sometimes I say sometimes works. For example, how Damian was conceived. The big change from what it was pre-New 52 was a blessing, and one of the few that New 52 actually gave in the case of changing DC lore. Or that Batwoman was Batman's cousin. That wasn't really, I don't think it was important to happen, but it certainly stuck around, and I think it was a good addition to Batwoman's character, and Batman's. And I think the changes made to Wotan really work, even if they're kind of, similar to Rose and Thorn. Wotan pre-New 52 and post-New 52 feel like very different, separate characters. Like, I feel like one should be like the other's like child, and like it should have been like a mantle passed down to the next Wotan, because they don't come across like the same person. Like their gender even changes. But yet again, for the New 52, how it Despite the good things it did for Wotan, a character everybody, loves. I'm just kidding. Literally nobody, I think, ever knew who he was until, I think, like 10 years ago. And I think the only reason why people even know who he is probably from Young Justice. But yet again, also those things from the New 52 that would, help his character were exchanged for Wally West, Stephanie Brown, Cassandra Cain, and hundreds of lives. Luckily, they're all back, but I'm still not over the fact that DC tried to get rid of any of them. Especially Huntress. Because they were and Wally West to a degree, but Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain came back pretty early. Wally West and Helena Burnelli were gone forever. And they were replaced by Helena Wayne and, Wally West was replaced by Barry and Wallace West. I like Wallace West, but he's like a good character, but I don't want him to be Wally's replacement. Okay, I'm going on a rant. Wotan, in my opinion, has wasted potential and could come back. Although, seeing the fact that they didn't return Rebirth, I think they might not come back. But maybe they will. Hopefully they will. If they do come back, I have a bad feeling they're going to go back to the pre-individual version of the character, which is most likely the case, but I hope they go with the New 52 version of the character. As he, she, and they, I think, are a excellent example of how sometimes the New 52 could work, but still, it still flopped. It flopped bad. With legacy characters, it didn't flop bad with some things. For example, the Core of Owl stuff was great. Just legacy characters, they were not good with those. But that's my opinion on Wotan. Do you like him? Do you dislike them? Do you love her? Do you hate her? Do you like the fact that they became gender fluid? I personally thought it worked. Anyways, that's it for this video. Please like, subscribe, and like always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!